Hello and welcome to Moonlight Castle. This is a visual novel that I stumbled upon from Twitter, obviously. and as far as I can tell, it's been going on for a while, I think. I'm not really sure. I do believe that the dog right here with the green beanie is a protagonist, and this is one of the characters that he can choose to be with, I guess. And from what I did see from was it Twitter or its itch.io page, is that it's a mystery, slice of life, romance, and like I don't know, something else. It had another word. It kind of reminded me of Password in its premise. And on the one hand, it's like, oh, well, I know Password. On the other hand, it's like, I'm not sure that's a good thing. Oh, supernatural is the other word that it uses to describe itself. So, yeah. Anywho, well, I guess depending on what you choose as you're going through the story, it will dictate how it goes. Like, you might make a bad choice and that might lead to something bad happening, or you might make a good choice and, good stuff happens. So, because I've never played this before, there is always a chance that something good or bad will happen. Obviously, you know which character I'm gonna pick, because he's right here on the main menu. So yeah, don't expect me to pick anyone else, obviously. You know what I always pick. But yeah, I guess without further ado, let's begin and see how this story, what it's about. Day 1. It was a quiet dawn. I was sitting on my favorite tree stump, staring at the sky. The sun was rising, and I was enjoying how the scenery changed before me. I yawned. No matter how much of an early bird I was, a Monday morning was always going to be a Monday morning. The week just repeated its cycle, and everyone, including myself, wasn't ready to do it all over again. An average life of a college student, that was all I had going on, and sometimes the routine became such a burden that I wished I could throw it away. Then, as if to interpret my thoughts, the phone in my pocket without making sound stirred enough for me to notice it. I unlocked my phone and started to read a message that I received. "Make sure to come to school today. I have something to tell you and everyone else." It was from Liam, one of my few friends that I had made in college. We shared some classes and eventually we found ourselves talking to each other more and more. "I wasn't planning to skip a class today. Did something happen?" I texted him back and watched the double check marks appear on the side. He read the message and swiftly replied, "It's a secret. You'll hear more about it later." I got worried and huffed. Either it was his poor wording, or it was just me being an idiot and overthinking it. Nonetheless, I was a bit annoyed, so I decided to put the phone away without replying. Then the phone vibrated again. I wasn't going to answer it anymore, but I was curious to see who else had something to say, and if it had changed my mind. After unlocking my phone, I saw a text from an unknown number. Not what I expected. Is there a default name? I guess there is no default name. Oops. "I miss you, Emilio." I was a bit surprised, but I texted back anyways, afraid of leaving this person hanging. "You may have gotten the wrong number. That's not my name." When I hit send, I was greeted by the pop-up message that would appear whenever someone tried to send a text message to an invalid number, and it startled me. I tried a few more times, but it was to no avail. Then I simply gave up. This weird bug was puzzling me. Though I felt bad for the guy, I didn't think that contacting the operator just to answer to a stranger was going to be worth the effort. A few minutes had passed when a car came and stopped on a nearby sidewalk. I immediately recognized who it belonged to, and I was already taking my bag, walking hastily towards it. The car's window was open before I could get my hands on the door. "Damn, today you're up even earlier than usual, Joel. I swear that Sunday you'll stop sleeping entirely." Ryan greeted me with a big smile, unlocking the door for me so that I could get in. I went to bed early, that's all. I quickly came up with an excuse, somewhat embarrassed to be called out like this. You're so cute when you hide under your hat. When he said that, I realized that I was tucking down my hat. It was my reflex at this point. I do it whenever I felt nervous, and I'd always be surprised each time I did it, as I'd never noticed that I was doing it even though the hat would obscure almost half of my vision. Stop. The bear was trying to gently set my eyes free, but my hands refused to cooperate. I wanted to do it myself, and he knew that. Ryan was enjoying himself, teasing me as always, but I didn't mind it. I liked his playful nature. He'd always been like this ever since we were kids. We have time before our class starts. Wanna go somewhere? While Ryan was waiting for my response, he peeked in through the rearview mirror to make sure that everything was in order, mostly the blonde tufts he'd recently dyed. I couldn't help myself but let out a chuckle in front of such a display. Okay, Brad, I'll let it slide because I teased you as well. But now, answer me. I should have known that he was going to notice and try to get back at me for laughing at the way he was trying to adjust his hair. I started playing with my fingers. I don't really have a preference. If you want to drive me to school, that's alright too. Ryan raised a brow and stared at me. I slightly backed off the moment his giant nose approached me. He took a sniff of my clothes. You skipped breakfast again? I stayed quiet as guilt was preventing me from saying anything back. He'd known I was lying, no matter what. Do I have to remind you? But breakfast is so extra. I prefer to save up my hunger to enjoy a better lunch. I spouted my hot take at him, though I felt a bit uneasy, as I knew that he'd already known my take on breakfast and how to destroy me in this debate. Ryan narrowed his eyes, seemingly ready to scold me, but to my surprise, he held back, returned to his seat, and turned on the engine. There's this place that I found near the school. You can get something there, okay? I didn't see the point in arguing. Deep down, I knew he was right. I was just lazy, and unless I was really hungry, I wouldn't bother. Alright, you got me. I'll have something. Ryan looked a bit more relaxed. He seemed satisfied with the mental trophy he got from this silly debate we were having. It was on full display over that soft face of his. Trust me, you'll love it so much that you yourself will be asking to go there. I rolled my eyes in response as he laughed. There was no way that would happen. This eating habit had set its roots in me ever since I started living alone, and leftovers were the only exception to that rule. I doubt it. Come on, would it kill you to be a little more excited? I wouldn't have been satisfied with the simple, oh my god, Ryan, I'm so looking forward to it. I looked at him, perplexed by the way he tried to impersonate me. I don't sound like that. Yeah, you don't. But, I mean, you could. Dumbass. You'll be the dumbass once we get there. It started to intrigue me at this point. Ryan was placing so much expectations on this mysterious place, and his enthusiasm was contagious, to say the least. You tend to like everything your paws land on. The bar doesn't hold much. That's not true. There are things I won't eat. Name one. I smiled as I watched Ryan struggle to come up with a response. The table has turned, and I loved every second of it. I got one. Remember that family party we went to last month? Ryan. Let me finish. There was a barbecue, remember? One of the sausages fell on the floor, and I told you I wouldn't eat it, see? I pinched my forehead, not knowing if I should be laughing or concerned. Yes, I remember that. But I also remember you screaming that wasting food was unacceptable. And I watched you clean the sausage, cook it for an extra 5 minutes, and then chow that thing down. It was fine though. It tasted great, and I didn't get sick either. That's not the point. At that moment, I could see Ryan slowly show the face of a realization. Oh, yeah, I kind of forgot what the point was. He scratched his beard, slightly embarrassed for what had happened. Meanwhile, I was just laughing at how silly this was, and I loved it. Then I shook when the car came to a sudden halt. I had no idea we reached our destination. It was so fast that I was still processing what just happened. Ryan was the first person to open the door and get out of the car. I was worried that he might be upset, so I rushed out as well. I tugged his shirt a few times and he turned to face me. What's wrong? He looked as relaxed as usual. There was absolutely no sign of him being mad. Nothing. I just thought that you were upset about what I said earlier. Never mind. Ryan patted my head, and it helped me calm down fast. Joel, you're my best friend. We make fun of each other all the time. I'd never be mad at you. Ryan reached for my hand and held it tightly, and made my heart skip a beat. Let's go. I'm so excited to show you this place, and even if you aren't interested, I can't wait to get in myself. I never said I wasn't. His strength was overwhelming. He dragged me inside, and it was of no use for me to try to protest. Though I still quite enjoyed the moment, as I was just focusing on how our hands were holding one another, and I was flustered beyond reason. Ryan took me all the way to the counter and promptly seated me on the stool before letting go of my hand. I didn't need to look around too much to give my first impressions of the place. It's empty. Usually there's an old man sitting with a cup of coffee while reading the newspaper in the corner. I raised a brow, unsure of what to say back. One person wouldn't really change it much. I could see Ryan growing impatient. This place was supposed to leave me impressed, and I would hate to see him disappointed, so I decided to give it a chance and wait. Russell, where are you? There was a bell sitting on the counter, and Ryan didn't hesitate to yell while he was repeatedly pressing it. I was feeling a little nervous at this point, so I reached for my hat. A bull appeared in front of us, making little to no sound. I wondered if he was a ninja, or the noise Ryan made was helping him cover his tracks. I'm here. Please stop this ruckus. He seemed already acquainted with my friend, judging by the reaction to what Ryan did. I was surprised by the calm and level demeanor he carried about his ways. Where were you? Don't leave this place unattended like that. I had no customers, and it'd be a waste of time to stay put and do nothing. Nevertheless, what I do or don't doesn't concern you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pry. Can I have the usual? Russell turned around and, with incredible mastery, gathered up all the ingredients that were lying on the shelf. Your return was expected. I prepared the usual, or rather, a variation of it. Please have a taste. I could see his confidence from the way that he talked and how he moved. Ryan appeared to be thrilled, as his eyes were all over Russell, admiring the brewing process. He was charmed like an audience that was mesmerized by a magician's tricks. This looks incredible! I couldn't tell exactly what was so special about the cup of chocolate drink that Russell made for Ryan. The bear slipped down so fast that it was way too late by the time the idea of asking him for a taste came to me. Well, I wasn't a fan of sweet things anyway. I cut down the sugar after noticing how much you tend to guzzle down your desserts. I hope you understand. The moment Ryan heard it, his heart shattered, as he was astounded by the most genuine betrayal he'd ever faced, by the barista friend who he had trusted so much. I was trying my best not to laugh and cut his wound deep. It was great. I didn't notice anything different from the one I had yesterday. I wasn't sure if he was sarcastic or not. Ryan was most likely telling the truth, but to be told that he was given a diet version must have been crushing. What would you like to order? Locking his eyes on me, Russell finally acknowledged my presence. I genuinely didn't know what I wanted. I was neither thirsty nor hungry, and Ryan was pressuring me into getting something to eat. A coffee, maybe? Before Russell could start brewing, Ryan interrupted him. No, give him the special one, like how you did for me. I immediately thought of the drink Ryan just gulped down, and I wasn't very interested in it. I'd rather not have what you had. Ryan scratched his head, trying to explain. It's not going to be the same drink as mine. Russell will try to guess what you like to have. It sounded crazy to me, but before I could say anything, the barista cut me off. It'll cost more than if you were to normally order the same thing, and there'd be no refunds if you end up not liking what you get. Do you agree to these terms? I didn't have a lot of money on me, and I certainly didn't want to waste it gambling on my food. Yeah, it's okay. Go for it. Ryan, wait. I don't have enough money to pay for it. I know, it's fine. I dragged you here, so this time, I'm paying. Sounds good? Are you sure? You don't have to. But I want to. Stop being silly. I brought you here exactly for this reason. Now watch while Russell does his magic. I didn't know what he'd planned for me, but one thing was clear. Judging by the fact that Russell was picking up a pan, it was obvious that he was going to make a dish rather than a drink. I was sure I wasn't hungry, but then the smell hit me and awoke my senses from their slumber. Mouth-watering, nose-twitching with excitement, I found myself craving it much more than I'd ever craved anything before. Watching him flip the eggs was relaxing for some reason, and it made me feel even hungrier. I could hear Ryan's low giggle from my left, but I was too hooked on watching the food to care. I never smoked, but I believed that that's how it would be, to feel like I was uncontrollably addicted to something. Russell slid the plate to me, and I didn't bother to even check what was on it before I put the contents in my mouth. Eggs and bacon, huh? Smells nice. I knew exactly what Ryan wanted. The signs were as clear as day, but if he really wanted a bite, he should have just asked me directly. He was eyeing me for the entire meal, watching me take every bite as the food slowly decreased to nothing on the plate. Russell, that was amazing. I never thought eggs could be this tasty. It takes only a little effort to improve anything when you know the ways, Joel. My eyes widened in surprise as I heard him say my name. I didn't think that we'd introduced ourselves to each other yet. You know my name? I blushed after blurting out that question. Do I know you? I had a feeling that he looked familiar, but I couldn't quite put my finger on where I might have seen him. Ryan's told me about you. We also attend the same college. You may have seen me in one of the classes. Oh, that's why. Now, tell me your thoughts about this place. Ryan tried his hardest not to look too excited. He seemed to have an idea of what I was about to say, but he probably wanted to hear it from me directly. Why is this place so empty? Your food is excellent. Clearly this place deserves much more. Did you see the path Ryan took to bring you here? That should answer all the questions you just asked. I couldn't bring myself to admit that I hadn't been paying attention to the road at all when Ryan was driving me here. I only nodded, as I was too embarrassed to say anything. Yeah, this place is quite deep into the alley, and there are at least 3 other bars that were closer to the main street. Ryan rescued me by breaking the silence. I wondered if he knew what I was thinking, or if it was just a lucky coincidence. This place doing well? Russell was quiet for a moment. My question must have been tough. Still, he didn't react much. I saw a slight pause in his movement, though it was difficult to notice. Income is low but steady. We're fine thanks to our loyal customers. Ryan banged the counter with his fist, scaring me in the process. I never did well with loud noises, especially if they were sudden. Can I help somehow? I don't want you to lose your job. Russell seemed annoyed. Maybe because he already told us that the business was fine, but Ryan insisted that he wanted to help and make sure that the worst wouldn't happen. Just keep coming, buy your breakfast here, and bring more people. It seemed what Russell said was good enough to Ryan. I could see that Ryan was easing up a bit. I'm okay with coming back. Maybe next time I'll get something to drink too. Compared to Ryan, Russell was much less expressive, so he was a little difficult to read. It was as if they were the polar opposites of one another. The bull did a minimal movement with his head to agree with what I'd said. He then turned around and focused on cleaning the utensils. Ryan paid for my meal. This time I wanted to give him something in return, but he shunned me. He'd done so every time I tried. Why can't I buy you something too? Because you can't afford to waste money. Isn't that why you skip breakfast? I couldn't believe Ryan would just drop it on me like that. Though I knew he was only trying to look out for me, I couldn't help but feel bad about it. He'd helped me so much that I wouldn't care that I was running low on cash, and would gladly hand over what little money I had left just to help him for once. Let's just go to school. Don't be like that. I wasn't trying to be mean. I walked to the car without turning back. Ryan chased after me as soon as he waved goodbye to Russell. I'm not mad at you. Ryan looked at me and he seemed sad. My eyes must have been exhausted. Just thinking about stuff. Tell me! Talking it out helps, trust me. I really wish it was that simple, but even I didn't know what I was feeling. Everything felt so vague. I felt uncertain and empty. Maybe it was from what he'd said earlier, and now I'm having trouble trying to bury it back from where it came. I'll be fine. I just need a minute. Ryan sighed. He must have felt guilty, and the guilt sure was bothering him. I didn't think there was a way to make the situation less awkward. The bear continued to drive. After a short while, the campus was in sight. "Do you have plans for lunch?" I could see him struggling to speak. Things didn't look right to him, and the silence wasn't helping, and I wasn't able to clear his doubts either. "No, I don't have plan." "Great, I'll treat you to lunch." I glared at him. He knew I hated it when he did that. "No, you already got me breakfast." "Did you bring your own lunch then?" "Of course I did." "Then, where is it? In your bag?" "Are you really going to check, without even asking me first?" "Can I?" "No." "Why?" "Because I said so." "You didn't bring lunch, did you?" "I have enough to buy a small thing later, okay? Can you stop doing this?" It was beginning to get tense, but we both realized how dumb we were being over something so stupid. There was no problem other than the one we were trying to make. "I'm sorry." "No, I should be the one to apologize. I wanted to help and I didn't realize I was crossing a line. It's not okay to force you to eat, and I don't want you to hate me for it." "Are you kidding? I never hate you. You're super sweet and I'm the one acting like a brat." "Then what about sharing lunch instead of me buying it for you?" "I guess I could use a bite, as long as you don't keep looking at me with those puppy eyes while I eat. You're the one giving it to me." Ryan stared at me for a moment, probably longer than he was supposed to. I could perfectly imagine the internal conflict he was going through. I'll try. No promises." "You're unbelievable." Ryan stopped the car and grabbed his bag, which was surprisingly bigger than usual. He wasn't the type to carry tons of stuff around. "I need to turn in a few late assignments. Don't mind me." I looked at his bulging bag, wondering if he'd mixed up the definition of a few with something else. "A few, huh?" "Don't question it. I'll see you at lunch." "Sure, I'll see you later." I picked up my stuff from the passenger seat and got out as well. Once again, I was alone, or rather without a friend, since the building was crowded. The entrance was bustling with countless people, and I had to kindly shove aside a few of them that were blocking the way. Joel, quick! Come here for a second." My alone time ended way faster than I expected. A familiar voice chanted my name. It was the student council president. He was doing his usual morning routine, flipping through papers, seeking out students, listening to them, and then reporting back to the professors. Surely there was a lot more going on, but that was all I knew. "Good morning, Clyde. Busy as always, yeah?" The dragon was mostly indulging in his pile of documents. His eyes were delving through in the papers. I could see that he wasn't finding what he was looking for, but it didn't seem like he was ready to give up. "I'm never busy. I'm operational and active. What you're seeing is trivial. If you don't see me being productive, you have my permission to be worried." Taking a break is important, though. Do you ever get a burnout? "I don't have the luxury of going through such an awful thing. I have a strict schedule that I must follow." It seems that he wasn't the type to waste his time. I could understand him. To most, work would be the journey, and the money they earned at the end would be the reward. To him, though, work itself seemed to be already the reward, something that he enjoyed doing. "I brought the documents that you asked me to." "I'm sorry, I can't take them right now. Would you give me 10 minutes? I need to deliver these to the classes on the second floor." "Oh, sure. I'll come to the council room later." "I called you for another reason as well. My apologies for dumping this on you, but I'm extremely occupied today. I need you to run an errand for me." "Depends on what it is. I'm not very good when it comes to bureaucracy. Is that what it's called?" "No, nothing like that. I summoned you here because of Blake. He attends your morning class on the 4th floor, but due to my current circumstances, I can't fetch him myself. Would you go and get him for me? I'll take your documents then." "Sounds simple enough. I got this." "I'm grateful, thank you." I was genuinely impressed by the fact that Clyde never looked overwhelmed. Not once had I seen him hesitate when doing anything. He just finished talking to me, but for the entire time he was talking, he was also working on his papers, signing them properly and arranging them neatly in a folder. And he wasn't slow either. That guy was a machine, unstoppable and relentless. Clyde had always followed a strict schedule and never missed a point, punctual to a T. He'd never be caught showing up early or late. I looked at the towering staircase and considered taking the elevator, but I didn't like the idea of being stuck in a cramped space with people I barely knew. My laziness was no match for my social anxiety. I began to regret not going to the gym with Ryan. I could have trained a bit and maybe these steps wouldn't have resembled a giant mountain. I took a deep breath and after a few excruciating minutes that had felt like an eternity, I pushed through. To think that I pushed myself to such an extent just to avoid standing next to strangers. Actually, the more I thought about it, the more I came to realize that I totally picked the stairs again. I entered the classroom and dropped my stuff on the seat at my usual spot. Ryan must have been here before because I found his empty bag lying on another seat. I looked around trying to identify Blake amongst the classmates, but I was pretty sure that the wolf wasn't here yet. I was planning to look for him until my shoulder was tapped from behind and I jumped in the process. Yo, Joel, relax, it's me. It was Liam, and he was startled as well. He didn't expect me to react the way I did. He proceeded to adjust his glasses and then we greeted each other after both of us had calmed down. Can you forget that ever happened? I covered my face under my hat out of shame. It wasn't just Liam that saw me jump, but all the classmates that were looking in my direction or strolling nearby as well. I looked at my Lynx friend who began to dig through his bag and pulled out a creepy mask. He wore it proudly in front of everyone. The whispering behind the classmates started to simmer, and their attention was drawn to Liam. This belonged to a famous assassin who'd peeled off the skin of his victims. Liam was trying to help me in his own way by scaring people away from us. He used this knife. He quickly pulled out a knife. It was dripping fake blood slowly to the desk below. Some of the students realized it was just a silly stunt, but others, with a naive soul, began to scream in terror. Liam got a good laugh out of them. I carefully pulled up my hat like a turtle that was trying out its shell. Things eventually went back to normal and Liam put his things back into his bag. Hey, thanks for the help. Liam didn't say anything. Instead, he stared at me with an evil-looking grin stamped on his face. I already knew where this was going and my immediate response was to groan. You owe me one now. I didn't ask for your help. To save your ass, I had to perform a stunt that I'd planned to use on someone else. What if my target was in the crowd and saw it? Then the surprise would be ruined. With such risks in mind, I demand compensation. I'm busy. Clyde asked me to look for Blake. I turned my back at him and then proceeded to walk away. I had a bad feeling about this, so the sooner that I leave the classroom, the better it'd be. Where are you going? We're not done yet. He tugged my shirt. I tried to keep walking, but we were two nerds and our strength was about the same, so he was somewhat keeping me in place. I walked a bit and then he pulled back to where I was. Just come with me then. I'll listen to what you have to say if it'll get you to stop whining like a baby. Liam let go of my shirt and matched my speed as we walked out of the room together. I wanted to shake him off, but I had no idea how. So, about the compensation. You're not going to let it go until I give in, are you? It's something fun, I promise. Liam sounded way too excited. It's as if he'd planned this from the start. I refuse to prank people with you. I don't like to scare others or laugh at them, especially at their expense. You make me sound like an asshole. Come on, my stupid idea saved you, didn't it? I guess. I rolled my eyes, contemplating how far I was willing to go in order to return the devil's favor. You just need to lure the target to me. They'd never expect it from you. It's perfect. I don't want to be your accomplice. If you want to get in trouble, do it alone. I'd feel guilty no matter how little I contributed to the mischief. I kind of knew what was going to happen, and somehow it felt like I was going to allow it to happen. You can feign ignorance. You don't need to do anything but bring him where I need him to be. Who is this person? I'll tell you after you agree. He put on a wicked grin again. I smelled trouble every time I saw it. I don't like that you're not telling me. I have an idea who this person is, and trust me, you'll be punched, and that'd be well deserved. I was already giving into the dark side at this point. If Liam was going to get punched, then I think it would be a bit worthwhile to see. Joe, please, I swear. Just this one time. I'll even do something for you in return. Anything. Look, I can... Liam stopped when he was walking around the edge of the boys' bathroom. I peeked into the hallway unsure of what was going on with him. He was backing off, covering his nose with both hands. We both forgot about it, huh? Liam hated the smell of cigarettes, and we should have known that someone would be smoking here. Blake was also a smoker, so chances of him being the one producing this nasty odor were high. I'll wait outside, maybe a little further back, near that window. I'd wondered multiple times if Liam just didn't like the smell or if there was another reason he wasn't sharing with us. Blake was a kind person, always accommodating to the people who dislike smoke. Okay, I'll be back soon. My search ended the moment that I walked inside the bathroom. It was a small room with just one window in the back. Blake was there sitting on his favorite ledge, smoking. He seemed to be lost in his thoughts as he was admiring the scenery outside. He'd always lived in his personal bubble, yet he always managed to be aware of his surroundings, no matter how deep he was indulging in his mind. Morning, Joel. His ear twitched as he heard my footsteps. He didn't turn to face me. He recognized me simply from the way I walked. It was amazing in his own right. Hey Blake, how are you? Rarely did the wolf keep his eyes fully open. Only a sky worthy of a stare might give him the motivation to look. I wasn't sure if it was just his character or if it appeared so just because the bags under his eyes were making him look like he was always tired. Like a flower standing against a storm, wary and damaged, beautiful all the same. Prevailing by the youth in his blood. He didn't want to give up despite the fact that Mother Nature had a different plan. I blinked, uncertain of what to make of all the words that Blake just threw at me. So you're fine? Blake chuckled and finally turned to face me. He opened his eyes slightly just to look at my face before he closed them again. Some would think that he was tired or drowsy, but to me he seemed to be fully awake. I was trying to sound poetic. Clyde recommended this book to me. It's about short poems, and I was inspired to try making some myself. Thoughts? I scratched the back of my head, trying to recall what he'd said earlier. But the only replay that I could see in my head was full of random and disconnected bits. The entire thing was already gone. Maybe warn me about it next time. I wasn't prepared. I was hoping to observe the reaction of someone who wasn't ready for it. I apologize. I let out an awkward chuckle. It seemed everyone had their eyes on me today. If the smoke is bothering you, don't hesitate to tell me, okay? I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. I'll just go somewhere else where I can't disturb people. Blake knew the building better than anyone. Even Clyde couldn't hold a candle to him. The wolf was aware of all the hidden spots and the shortest routes. Once I even saw him break into a room by picking the lock, and he closed the door behind him so that he could have some time alone. Clyde decided to let Blake's little mischief slide in exchange for Blake's help. He could use some of Blake's sharp senses and amazing memory, all the things of utmost importance in the student council. You know that I don't mind the smell, but I'm rather concerned about how much you smoke. Depends on the day. I'm sorry. There are some things that I just can't easily let go. Blake never opened up to anyone, and I wondered if he ever would. I was worried, of course, but I didn't want to be like Ryan. It was his choice to make, not mine. The only thing that I could do was to remind him that he had friends to rely on. You want to talk about it? I appreciate the offer, but I have to refuse. You don't need to hear it. I wanted to argue, but I knew I'd be fighting a losing battle. Thus, I simply moved on, to the real reason I was looking for him. Clyde asked me to come and get you. He seemed to be having trouble. Blake sighed and prematurely finished a cigarette. He must have disliked doing it. I told him to let me handle those papers, but he's hopelessly stubborn when it comes to work. He needs to be more patient. Not everything has to be done immediately. I was missing the details, but I wholeheartedly agreed with him. That sounded exactly like Clyde. Were you alone? You're the only one that walked in, but I'm pretty sure I heard more footsteps. Oh, that was Liam. He's waiting outside. Blake didn't let me finish what I was saying. As I was mentioning Liam's name, Blake took a small bottle out of his pocket and took a sip from it. That makes sense. Give me a second. Clearing my throat. Blake was doing his best to get rid of all the smell on him for Liam's sake. The Lynx didn't deserve that treatment, in my opinion, but I prefer to keep that statement to myself. I walked out first and checked both directions without saying a word. I wanted to see if we had an opportunity to ditch Liam, in case he wasn't paying attention. Are you trying to sneak out? I shrieked as Liam gave me a jump scare from behind the only corner I hadn't checked. I didn't think that he would be there due to the smoke, but in all fairness, it was already fading, and he was the kind of person that would totally put up with it just to mess with me. Fuck you, Liam. I pushed him away, but he simply bounced back to me with another annoying snicker. We're even now. It took me a second to connect the dots, and I felt a bit relieved when it clicked. I was a target. Bingo! Honestly, I was still a little suspicious of him. I could never predict this guy. Are you sure we're even? Would it make you feel better if I told you that I hadn't planned to prank anyone else? And even if I had, I no longer needed your help since I already pranked you here. So, we're even. I immediately thought of the things that Liam was keeping in his backpack and narrowed my eyes. I was still skeptical about this whole thing. I know what you're thinking, and I can explain really. Joel, are you okay? Liam and I turned to face Blake, who was coming from the bathroom. Blake's eyes were almost fully open. I never seen Blake fully open his eyes aside from when he was trying to look intently at something, so the fact that he was staring at us with such eyes was a bad sign. He seemed worried and sounded slightly irritated. Maybe he predicted that Liam was going to pull a prank on me. My bad, I cut in as my protective side was kicking in. We bumped into each other by accident, and I was startled. That's all. Blake crossed his arms and reluctantly narrowed his eyes. He left them just a tiny bit opened. He'd always despised Liam's pranks, and it seemed I had to say something or things could go badly. I believe you. From how Blake sounded, I knew that he knew what I was trying to do, and he just decided not to make a fuss about it. Thanks. Liam whispered to me as the three of us walked downstairs. He must have been aware that Blake could hear him, but Blake was pretending not to hear anything. Can you tell me about the mask now? And the knife? I knew Liam liked to prank people, but bringing knives and fake blood to school seemed a bit excessive, even for someone like him. I can't tell you yet. Liam looked troubled. It was an expression that I rarely saw on his face, so it was kind of alarming. It seemed incredibly out of his character. Okay, is this another joke? Please stop messing with me, I'm getting worried. Liam wrapped his arm around my neck, resting his elbow atop my shoulder. He tried to downplay it, but I wasn't fooled. Something fishy was definitely going on. No jokes, I promise. I'll share it with everyone later, and I'd rather say it once. Are you okay, though? It's nothing bad, right? Yes, I'm fine. It's going to be nice. Okay, I'll be patient then. Blake didn't say much, but his ears flicked a few times during the ordeal. He seemed he was carefully listening to our conversation. I couldn't stop wondering what Liam wanted to share with everyone. Clyde. Blake opened the door to the student council room. He walked in and found the dragon sipping a cup of tea while also listening to his phone. You're 1 minute early. Allow me to finish this. In the meantime, Liam and I brought over some nearby chairs to sit at the opposite end of the table from Clyde, and Blake went through the archives to look for something. I could see the dragon watching the time. He ended the call exactly 1 minute after. There we go. Right on time. He announced it proudly as if everyone was also paying attention to the time. Nobody really cared, and I just handed him my documents. Wonderful. Many thanks, Joel, for bringing Blake here, and for delivering what I'd requested a few days prior. The wolf approached us and dropped a folder on the table. This is the summary of our last meeting. I think this is the paper that you were looking for. Clyde quickly skimmed through my documents and applied a stamp and his signature, which looked extremely fancy. Blake, my lifesaver, your assistance is always appreciated. As Clyde was reaching for the folder, Blake pulled it away just enough for Clyde to grasp. The same scene had happened a second time before the dragon began to question the wolf's behavior. What are you doing? Why do you need this? I'd like to prepare a speech for my next campaign, and it'd be a delight if I could make sure that it'd be even more incomparable than the previous one. When was the previous one? Last week, I believe. And when is the next one? Clyde froze up hearing the last question. It was the first time that I'd seen him mulling over what to say before answering to someone. It's a priority to ensure that I'd be delivering the perfect speech, and I'll spend as much time as necessary to realize it. Clyde ended up avoiding the question and then tried to reach for the folder again, only for Blake to secure it in both arms. If you'd be so kind as to hand over the folder, I'd be grateful. Blake stayed firm and refused to comply. Clyde's fancy mannerisms had no effect on the wolf. The campaign is next month, and you've never had a problem speaking in front of an audience. Why do you need to prepare so early, Clyde? It's prudent to plan ahead, and it'd be most efficient to work on it now, while I still have this so-called free time. You're not spending your free time working. Your dedication is noble, but this is dangerous to your health, Clyde. My health? I've been to numerous doctors, and I can assure you that both my body and my mind are in best condition. For now, yes, but you've never told any of those doctors just how much burden you've been carrying on your back. Eventually, it'll take a toll on you, especially if you keep putting yourself under so much pressure. Don't be ridiculous, Blake. Me? Under pressure? That's inconceivable. I knew I wasn't supposed to take part in this conversation, and neither was Liam, but we had no other choice. When it seemed to be less heated, he and I chimed in. I agree with Blake. It's important that you take a break to do something else, something personal, something that you like. Your life shouldn't be only about working. I can't even comprehend how you do it. If I didn't get to play games for at least 5 hours, I'd be totally depressed. Clyde was quiet. He seemed to be lost in thoughts. Maybe he was taking the time to try and accept the truth after hearing it from other people rather than just Blake. You told me before that you might be willing to give it a try, hadn't you? The dragon played with his long whiskers and adjusted his glasses as he began to speak again. I'll be honest with you, Blake. You've been very helpful to me, and without your assistance, I was sure to be falling behind my schedule. You've aided me multiple times, so I've come to the conclusion that I should probably give this entertainment thing a chance. That's a good dragon. We'll sort out the details later, but for now, you may have this folder. I understand the premise, but please refrain from addressing me as a good dragon ever again. It feels strange. My bad. I was just trying to be friendly. Is that how a conversation usually goes between students? You should call him a good puppy then. My eyes almost escaped their sockets when I heard Liam say it. I couldn't believe him. They were our peers, but we barely knew them. I was so shocked at the way that he talked that I forgot even to pull down my hat. Blake turned his face to look at the lynx, and I couldn't think of a word to describe what I was seeing. The wolf was visibly upset, yet he somehow managed to keep a straight face. Maybe he was holding it back only because we were with Clyde. Should I refrain from doing so? You seem displeased. Despite how knowledgeable he was, the dragon seemed completely oblivious when it came to informal language and interactions among friends. I think you could learn more about casual interactions by spending more time with other students. Blake was clearly trying to make us hang out with Clyde more, as a payback for what had just happened earlier in the hallway. It was kind of unfair to me, but I didn't really mind spending time with Clyde. I'd love to. Liam, however, was sweating. There was absolutely nothing he could do to get himself out of it. He practically set himself up for it. Fine. Clyde promptly got up from his seat and reminded us that our class was about to start and that we should hurry at once. Me and my goddamn mouth. I laughed, though Liam was being stupid and kind of crossing a line. I was happy with how this whole thing turned out. I was actually excited to meet Clyde again, and this time without having to think too much about the hierarchies or the fact that he was part of the student council. After we left the room as we were walking back to our class, Blake made a stop to stand over Liam. He was waiting for a chance to give Liam a piece of his mind, and now was the perfect moment to do so, as we were no longer with Clyde. Liam, my dearest friend, may I have your attention for a moment? Blake grabbed Liam by the shoulders, holding him in place. The lynx audibly gulped, knowing very well that he was in trouble. Yes? I stopped walking to look at them. It'd be pretty awkward to show up late to my class when I was already in the classroom just an hour ago, but I didn't want to miss the scene either. Joel, I'm thankful that you were supporting me back there, and I wanted to say that I really appreciate your help. You're a kind person, and if you don't want to hang out with Clyde, please don't force yourself. Blake, don't ever think that I was forced to agree with you. I genuinely want to spend time with Clyde. He seems like a cool and unique person. I like it. I'm so happy to hear that. In fact, I'm so happy that I might end up going easy on Liam, which wouldn't be ideal, to be honest. I need to have a word with him in private. Please go ahead and don't worry about us. It was a shame that I couldn't stay to see the best part, but I understood why he'd rather not have me around. I did as he asked and walked away on my own. Liam was begging me to stay and save him, or rather, it was what I believed from looking at his eyes. Regardless, I rushed back to my classroom, and luckily the professor hadn't shown up yet. Ryan was waving at me as I was returning to my seat. Where have you been? You have no idea. This was the wildest Monday morning I've ever had. That'd make a good lunchtime story. Ryan started waving again, maybe another friend of his just arrived. Admittedly, I'd never interacted with his friends, though I'd assumed that he was a very popular bear. Yo, Ryan! Doing well? A crocodile made his way through to us. I recognized his face, but not his name. He'd probably said it at some point, but my stupid brain just decided I was better off forgetting it. Dylan, hey, good morning. I reserved 2 seats, just as you asked. Thanks, dude. I really needed a good place to look at the board. I'm struggling with math. Don't worry about it. I get you. My friend Joel is actually super smart. Maybe he can share his notes with you. Ryan was embarrassing me again. He meant no harm, and it was flattering to hear him say something like that, but I wasn't as good at math as he made it to be. I mean, we can do that, but I'm a bit messy when it comes to taking notes. I don't mind helping though. Ryan and I usually work together. It's better than studying alone, that's for sure. I showed him my notebook, and it felt super awkward because I knew my handwriting was confusing. Only the writer himself could be able to decipher such a chaotic mess. Dylan reached for my notebook, and I reluctantly let it go of it. He mumbled for a bit as he rotated the book around, most likely trying to figure out my writing. Oh, I get it. Bro, these notes make it look so easy. Can I copy them? You do? I wasn't sure I heard that right. Not even Ryan could decode the mess I made in my notes, and he was my best friend. Usually he'd just tell me to read my notes out loud to him. Yes. Then you can take them with you. I need it back tomorrow, though. Sure. I can give it back at lunch. I smiled at him and went back to minding my own business. I didn't realize that the professor had arrived and already begun the lecture, but as soon as I noticed it, I started taking notes. I could roughly hear Dylan and Ryan talking to each other, but I wasn't really paying attention to what they were saying. Whenever Ryan felt bothered, his voice usually changed, so even though I wasn't following the conversation, I could feel that he was annoyed at something. To me, he was always easy to read. An hour passed and the class went smoothly. I was proud of the summary that I made, which was easy to follow. With this, the exams would be no-brainers, and it'd be a piece of cake to earn a passing grade. Then suddenly I saw Dylan being pushed towards me. It looked like Ryan was extorting him to say something to me. Can I help you? The crocodile seemed annoyed. His face had an "I don't want to" written all over it, and I didn't know what to do. Am I bothering you? I can leave if you want. I peeked behind him and saw that Ryan was trying to hide behind his body, but there was no chance that it'd work. Oh, what's going on here? Dylan sighed. It seemed that he was impatient and wanted to get this over with. Ryan thought that I could use more friends, and I told him I'm fine. Though he clearly didn't get it and decided to make me borrow your notes as an excuse to start a conversation. But it didn't work, so now he's trying to make me do this again. The bear was awkwardly trying to laugh it off. That's not entirely correct, but I guess you could summarize it that way. Did he agree, or were you forcing others again? Again? Dylan, no, wait, that's not how... I'm not your goddamn toy, Ryan. The crocodile walked away, grumbling to himself. Ryan tried to get him to come back, but not for long until Ryan decided to stop following him. Then the bear came back to me. Jeez, he always reads the situation the worst way possible. I felt guilty that I might have escalated something. I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Don't be silly, this isn't your fault. How were you supposed to know? I can assure you that he does this constantly and always tries to push people away. You just happen to give him an out. So, it is my fault then. No, why am I so bad at this? Are you busy? I have another class in 10 minutes, and you? I don't care, I can be late. I shrugged and returned to my seat, as I still had some time to spare. You know that I go to the gym a few times a week, right? I nodded. There was no way that I wouldn't remember. Ryan liked to flex his muscles and show off his body, especially when he made any progress. I never found the courage to tell him that to me he looked exactly the same, round and soft as always. I met Dylan at the gym. We became gym buddies since we're taking similar programs from the same trainer. Ah, I see. That's how you started talking to him? Yeah, even Patrice warned me about how he could be difficult at times. But you know me, I never give up. You keep saying that he's easily upset, but I don't know. He seemed fine when we first talked. Actually, I don't know myself, honestly. I wasn't really paying much attention. Maybe he likes something about you? I don't remember doing anything special. All I did was give him my notes, so I shook my head at Ryan. Okay, but now I need you to answer my first question. I didn't force him. He kind of asked me, though not directly. The way he reacted suggested that he knew what I was about to ask next, and I couldn't help but chuckle at him. Can you explain that part? So, let's look at you as an example. Sometimes you're just playing hard to get. You say no to something when you don't really mean it. You just want to act like a brat and make others try hard to get you. Dylan is the same, but worse. I'm not a brat. I looked away, avoiding eye contact with Ryan. I didn't want him to see it, but my body was betraying me and my cheeks wouldn't stop flushing. I think it's cute. He took off my hat and put his paw on my head. I usually don't like it when people touch my hat or me, but Ryan was an exception. The bear scuffled his giant paw on my head, making a mess out of my hair, and then put my hat back to where it was. Are you stupid? Don't do it like that or people will get the wrong idea. I wasn't sure if I was saying that to him or myself. Does it bother you? Well, the thing is... Be honest. I puffed up my cheeks and forced the words out of my mouth, knowing that I'd regret it after. I enjoy it, but it's embarrassing. Maybe if we were alone, I wouldn't have minded. Ryan cracked a prideful smile. He was definitely going to rub it in my face later. Teasing you was fun. It makes me so happy. I love it. That was my cue to leave, or I'd get a stroke from all the emotions that I was feeling right now. I'll see you at lunch, Ryan. I stomped off, hiding my face from him. If I heard him say another word, I'd pop like a balloon. It took me a minute to regain my composure. He really got me this time. I'd have to come up with a counter strategy later. My mind trailed off as I made my way to the next class. I thought about Clyde, Blake, Liam, Dylan, and Ryan, and how amazing everyone was. I stopped in my tracks, and after I thought about it, maybe not everyone was. Liam was the black sheep among them. His shenanigans always kept people on edge, and I wondered if I could figure out a way to help him fit in. He was pretty much disliked by everyone. We weren't exactly on good terms with each other either, so it'd be quite a complicated feat to achieve. I reached for the doorknob only to grab someone else's hand. I'm so sorry, I was zoning out. It's you again. I pulled my hand back and looked at Dylan, holding a book and my notes in the crook of his arm. What are you looking at? He spoke a bit louder than when he was in class. Now that he was standing, it was quite intimidating. Nothing, I just wanted to get in. He huffed and opened the door for me. I rushed inside as I was feeling a bit uncomfortable to be around him alone. I found myself a nice seat near the window, unpacked my things, and readied myself to take notes. I want to sit here. Dylan came in, scoffed and sat next to me without giving me the chance to respond. It was true that there was no assigned seats, but why did he want to sit here? I tried to pay him no mind and keep my eyes on the board. I was only there for the lecture. There was no need to be scared. He kept staring at me. His eyes were glued to me. Was he trying to read my notes? Was he trying to start another conversation? I had no idea what he was up to. I can't, I sighed, annoyed by what he was doing. He was stressing me out and distracting me from the lecture. I came to the conclusion that I had to either call him out or move away, and it was obvious which one I picked. Dylan proceeded to pick up his stuff from the table and followed me, and that was when I couldn't keep quiet anymore. Please stop doing that. Doing what? I pointed at him and then at me. You know what I'm talking about. Ah, I see. You're trying to get away from me. The way he put it kind of hit me hard. I wasn't trying to be mean, I just wanted to focus on the lecture. I'm trying to listen to the professor and you're distracting. Dylan returned to his seat. For some reason, it felt awkward to me that he didn't make a comeback. What are you doing? I didn't know why I continued to talk. Maybe deep down, I just wanted to show Ryan that I could help too. I moved my things and sat next to Dylan so that he was able to look at what I was writing. Grab a pen, I'll show you how I take notes. Rather than listening to the lecture, I ended up showing Dylan how to efficiently take notes. I taught him how to identify keywords and main points, as well as how to evaluate the significance of each piece of information. He didn't talk much in the beginning. It almost felt like he was refusing to talk, but as I kept going, he started to speak more. This shit is annoying. True, but putting in the work now will make things easier down the road. Are you doing this because of Ryan? I'm gonna punch the shit out of him if you say yes. You do realize that if that were the case, I'd never say yes? Why? He's the one getting punched, not you. I don't like violence. How do you defend yourself then? I blinked a few times. His question surprised me. Do I need to? From who? Dylan didn't answer. I pondered over it for a moment, and I was pretty sure nobody hated me to the point that they just hurt me. I saw Dylan looking around. Maybe he wasn't sure how to cope with my response either. Ryan told me that you had a short temper, but I don't really see it. Dylan did raise his voice a few times, but it didn't go further than that, and he seemed to have self-control. I'm so pissed actually. Those bastards kept telling me to stay quiet, and because of that shit, you're getting the wrong idea about me. He seemed like a volcano that waited its whole life for an eruption that was overdue. A beastman has to exert his dominance so that others know who's at the top, and I was an absolute fool to have played along with their crap. I put on a blank expression, as I had literally no idea what he was talking about. It seemed that I'd opened a door that was meant to stay closed. Is that why you always speak so loudly? Not always. But if I have to prove a point though, I'll make sure absolutely everyone can hear me clearly. I wondered if that was necessary, but I couldn't bring myself to ask. Listen, nerd, I'm going to drop that awful act. It was making me look like a wimp, and my father would be disappointed. I raised a brow. He kept sounding weirder and weirder, but at least he wasn't being violent. I just can't follow the classes. Smart-ass professors spewing their useless jargon. I don't understand even a single word, and the books aren't any better. They keep overcomplicating things that would otherwise be easy as fuck to understand. It's like they just had to mess with me, and it's driving me crazy. I could actually relate to that though. I'd expressed it probably in a different way. What about Ryan? I can't focus around that asshole. He keeps smiling and giving his weird motivational trash, and he's gay as shit too. I don't want to be near him or his ass for too long. I try to hold it back, but a snort came out anyways. His description of Ryan's personality was spot on. It seemed he had his ways of expressing things. I had a feeling that if I let my guard down, he'd reach for my ass, and I'd make sure to go for his neck if that happened. I didn't really get what he meant, so I awkwardly laughed it off. Maybe I should change the topic. Do you like reading? For some reason, my gut was telling me that I might be walking on a minefield. I hated to admit it, but Ryan might be right. Dylan looked like he was mad. Why the fuck would you ask me that? He pressed closer and I started to panic. The amount of stress that I was under had just gone through the roof, and I was in no position to find a way out through lies. The book. You were holding a book when we walked in. Besides, you came to class from the library, didn't you? Please don't hurt me. I was shaking like a leaf. With his size, it'd be easy for him to crush me. I was just hoping that my plea would somehow work, and it seemed to be working. Joe, look at me. If you tell anyone where I went or what I was doing, I'll personally make you pay. I could feel the breakfast rustle had given me spinning in my stomach. I'd never been this scared by someone looking at me in the eyes before. I won't. I closed my eyes as I chanted those words. I even put my hands in the front of me to make some sort of shield. I didn't know if I was about to get punched, so I was just following my instincts. Things went quiet and nothing really happened. I took a peek and Dylan was already back in his seat, minding his business, so I eventually lowered my guard and tried to relax. Keep my secret and I'll teach you how to fight. I was busy wondering if I, somehow, wasn't making myself clear enough, so I didn't respond right away. I thought that the fact that I was on the verge of crying would make it obvious that I'd never dare to say anything he didn't want me to say. Dylan, I don't need you to do that. Shut up. I said I'm going to teach you. Okay, fine. If it makes you feel better, then I can try. Good. We can plan something in the next few days, when I'm not working. Oh, what do you do? I don't want to tell you. This time, it felt like I dodged a bullet. I was about to repeat the same mistake in less than 5 minutes. Dylan clearly disliked talking about himself, and what did I do? I asked him about him. I'm hopeless. I'll look forward to spending time with you. Yeah, sure, whatever. Was he hesitant? I thought I could see a fraction of a smile for a second there, and maybe even a blush. But it happened so fast that I couldn't tell. The class was over shortly after. It was a shame that I missed most of the lecture as I was basically talking with Dylan the entire time. It dawned on me that nobody interrupted us. Maybe Dylan was carrying a reputation that warded them off. I shrugged away these thoughts and packed my things. I wanted to say goodbye to Dylan, but he'd already left the classroom. He must have been hungry, as it was already lunchtime. My belly was rumbling too. The thought of finally getting to eat something nice rather than canned food was making me excited. I didn't like leeching off of Ryan, but he pretty much ordered me to eat some of his food, and nobody would really complain if I enjoyed it. And that's where I'm going to leave it for today. So, you got to meet at least like 90% of the cast. The only one... the only one that's missing is Patrice, which is a tiger. But you'll get to see him like in the next video, like immediately in the next video. I think I like Dylan out of all the characters that we've seen so far and what little we've seen so far. And I know, he's abrasive, he's mean, and he's rude. It's like, why don't you pick Dylan? We know, I like Dylan. He's a bear, he's big and soft, and he's nice. I don't like that. I don't care. He seems very nosy and like the type of person that you wouldn't tell a secret because he'll just spill the beans. So, he doesn't seem very trustworthy. Also, now that I'm looking at him, Joel, the dog, he has some weird markings. By weird, I mean like not typical, because he's a dog and he has diamond-shaped markings and like a weird little other thing. Anyways, I wonder if that's significant or if that's just a design choice. Anyways, also, the CGs that we've seen so far are really nice. I like that. And while I obviously already, did the other part, so I know what Liam is going to tell the group, I am interested to see if that's going to lead anywhere, but obviously you guys are going to have to wait and see what I'm referring to right now. Out of all the characters, like I said, I do like Dylan the most. Even though he's the bad boy, he's rude. I prefer his straightforwardness to all the other ones so far at the moment. I do like Blake though. Blake is pretty cool too. He seems smart enough to know what's going on and when to say something and when not to say something. And yeah, I'm also hoping that the characters do get fleshed out a little bit because otherwise Brian will get on my nerves even more. More than he has already. But anyways, so what do you guys think so far? Obviously, this is going to be split up into 2 videos because it comes out to be like around 2 hours. So yeah, that's just day 1. I know there is more for day 2, but I'm not sure if I'm going to record that just yet because I don't know how much there is. So I'll play it on my own and then go like, oh yeah, there's enough content, so I'll record that. But yeah. There is another main menu CG that's Ryan the bear, so you'll get to see that one later, but not right now. Because I still prefer Patrice over Ryan, because he's a tiger. I like tigers. You know, I like stripes. My hyena has stripes. Anyways, so yeah, write down in the comments what you think so far, and what you're expecting of the second part. And yeah. So, thank you all for watching/listening. If you would like to play Moonlight Castle yourself, you can find it over on itch, and you can find a direct link to it from the creator's Twitter page. Well, not the creator's Twitter page, the Moonlight Castle Twitter page, which I will link down in the description. And obviously, as you can see, they do have a Patreon and even a Discord. So, you know, you can subscribe to their Patreon to get early access to builds of Moonlight Castle, I'm assuming, maybe some behind-the-scenes stuff. And you can, you know, get into their server and ask questions and do all the usual typical Discord stuff. So yeah. Anyways, I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.